From We First and Goal 17 Media, welcome to Lead with We. I'm Simon Mannering, and today I'm so excited to speak with Rachel and Andy Berliner, the co-founders of one of the most pioneering and successful natural food brands in the country, Amy's Kitchen. So Rachel and Andy, welcome to Lead with We.
Thank you.
Happy to be here.
And so the two of you started Amy's Kitchen back in 1987. And now you do about $500 million in annual sales. And your success has launched a movement towards organic and plant-based eating that's dominating the food industry today. So tell us, how did that journey start in the first place? It was so ahead of its time. How did it start?
You want me to go, Rach, or you?
You can start.
Okay. Well, it started with when Rachel was pregnant with Amy. Late in her pregnancy, she reached a point where she strained a muscle, and the doctor said she should mostly stay in bed. So she asked me to cook dinner, and of course, I didn't know how to cook very well.
Always a precarious thing with a young husband, yeah.
Yeah, so I went to the natural food store and tried to find something organic, because we ate all organic foods, and there wasn't very much in a prepared meal. But I bought what was there, which was, in those days, one door of frozen in a big natural food store.
Sure.
There was no frozen. And the food was horrible, frankly. And we thought, gosh, there has to be other people like us who sometimes would want a convenient meal that's made with organic ingredients. Right. And they don't have time to cook. So that's where the idea sprung from, really, from our need. And
it was just a need and instinct. Why were you eating organic at that stage? Was it just something that you'd kind of grown up with or came to do?
Well, when I was young, my parents had an organic garden in Compton in the 50s. So my whole life I lived eating organic, except a brief period where I ate donuts and, all that kind of fun food. But it's the way we lived. We had an organic garden. We just believed in not using pesticides, and that was the healthiest thing to do. So it was just natural. And we're vegetarian, so it was natural when we decided to start this company that it would be organic and vegetarian.
We were talking before we started the podcast about the barn, and you started the business in the barn, and it was literally a working barn. Tell us about those early days, because it must have been a pretty lonely conversation to have with people. We're starting a food company, it's organic. What was the reception like?
Well, the reception in the natural food industry was fantastic. We started with one product, a vegetable pot pie, organic vegetable pot pie. And even though the product wasn't fully developed at our first trade show, and we didn't think it tasted right yet, people loved it, and they loved the idea. And 3 months later, it was as if we'd been in business for years, because it moved into all the natural food stores around the country. And people were saying, come out with more products. So our intention was to develop a little business. We had in our mind a couple $1 million in sales, just to help with bills and pay for Amy's college someday.
One of the things I wanted to add was, to an earlier question, is when we started, we had no idea that we would be a big company. We really were just, or there would be a movement following us. It came out of, one step at a time, every day doing something. I don't think we always felt that if we did the right thing, that the business would work, rather than trying to have a goal of making, this much money. We thought we had a goal of making this much good food and to make it the best we can in the highest quality. And that's always been our approach. It's not make the money first.
Rachel, how do you stay ahead of tastes and flavors? Because your role is so powerful. Anyone going into the clean beauty, the clean food market has growing competition every day. So how do you go about developing new products, keeping people interested?
We do many, many different things. It's not at all like we have a lab where food is made. We're going to a restaurant. We like a meal that maybe was made there. We talk to the chef, say, hey, could you come to California and work on some meals for us? We found somebody, for instance, in Scottsdale, a great restaurant, and she was very excited. She came to California and made these lovely meals, and we happen to have some very talented people. Fred Scarpula, that he and his father, they know how to take a small recipe and blow it up and still keep the integrity of the food. I travel around the world and I find a recipe I like. We find things in Mexico. It's a very fun, organic process or I have friends that, like with our Indian meals, we wanted to come out with Indian meals. So I have a lot of Indian friends and I knew who was the best cook and they came in and they showed us how to make it. So it's very authentic, home cooked Indian meals. We roast our own spices and that's the kind of, and like right now, I was just looking this morning, I was looking at Filipino food and, I just come up with ideas and it's not, we don't sit down and say, okay, we're going to do this, this, and this, but we'll do, right now we're just knowing that international foods have delicious profiles, taste profiles for vegetarian food.
Right.
So there's just so many different angles. Somebody in the plant came up with our Thai food, has happened to have a family that had a Thai restaurant, or it's just fun, different ways it comes in.
And, I don't want to underestimate what you had to overcome to have this success. When you think about, to be this size, $500 million in sales, when you've got an industrial food and farming practices out there, they have, in a lot of ways, a lot of control over the real estate in the shopping aisles and in the mind share of people with their superior marketing dollars and so on. How did you compete? How did you frame your messaging and storytelling to kind of keep growing in this way?
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with having a unique product offering, something different, being organic and being great tasting. We went many years until recent years without paying any slotting fees. We just, if someone said no, we'd build a track record with someone else and come back and say, look at the success. It was just a lot of persistent selling, persistent messaging, and we're never in a hurry. We didn't have the demands of a public company or venture capital saying, you have to grow by this amount this year. So we didn't have, if we failed, we said, okay, that's cool. We'll get it next time.
And you developed certain interesting things like the drive-through concept with Amy's Kitchen. Tell us about that.
For many years, our consumers have been saying from time to time, they write us a letter, why can't you guys open a drive-through? My kids want to go to McDonald's and they want to go to Taco Bell, and we don't feel good about taking them there. Right. So finally, someone joined the company that had a little background in retail. And so we decided to try it. And we had no idea if it would be successful. We thought maybe it would break even. And we opened our first drive-through in Rohnert Park, a block away from In-N-Out and across the street now from Chick-fil-A.
So literally taking on the kind of large industrialized food system.
Yeah. And we've outperformed all competitors in that location. And so we decided it was a complete shock. I mean, I just couldn't believe the lines of cars that were there the day we opened, and the publicity and the amount of business we were doing. We weren't prepared. We didn't do very well in servicing very quickly. We took us a while to figure it all out. But and now we opened at the airport, which wasn't the best thing in the world, right before COVID hit. And then but that's reopened now, and we opened in Corte Madera in the midst of COVID, and it's doing very well. We're opening a new one in Roseville in a few months, and then a couple in Southern California. So we're very excited about the drive-thrus. And what the drive-thru offers is food that people are used to: burgers, shakes, fries, fabulous salads, but everything's organic. And no matter what your dietary need is, whether it's gluten-free or vegan, or you're just a regular vegetarian, you eat dairy, you can order it, anything on the menu to your needs, which is really unique.
And help me understand this. Did you do that intentionally, Rachel? Did you look at it and go, okay, here are two sort of fast food restaurant chains. Let's really throw into relief the contrast between what we're doing and what they're doing. And have you done that on an ongoing basis? Or was it more, listen, here are some good locations, let's give it a go and see what happens?
It was just a perfect location that just came up. We were worried that we were so close to the other restaurants. We just didn't think, I said, I had no idea that a vegetarian burger place like this would be successful. It was an experiment.
And what about expanding, like the infrastructure costs of expanding to bricks and mortar, having a drive-through? when you've had all the convenience of retail outlets and so on. Was that a big decision? And did you have to kind of reorganize the company to service that?
Well, we created a different organization that, you know, it's separate from the Amy's Kitchen, and it wasn't difficult. I mean, everything is difficult, but it was just really fun. We had a great designer who designed the inside and made it all sustainable and fun to go in. And we have a green roof on it and lots of beautiful garden and so good food.
And it was difficult but fun. But now it's not so difficult because we hired someone who knew the business, and he improved things so much. You know, that made that huge difference. It's getting the right talent in there, but financially, it's a commitment, and we have learned, and he has explained to us that you can't grow faster than you can develop the personnel to train others. We have 100 employees for each location. So when we have, what would it be, 30 locations, we'd have as many employees as Amy's does as a whole, with just 30 locations. So that'd be 3,000 employees. So it's very people intensive and training intensive. And people have to learn, you know, we have a separate grill for gluten-free, everything's got to be separate, dairy-free, the whole kitchen's got to be set up a certain way. We've done beautifully, but it takes a lot of work.
It does take a lot of work. And what you just said then is so powerful. I want everyone to hear this. You can only grow as fast as you can sort of bring on board people who can train others. Because otherwise you'll just become a bottleneck at the top of your business. And you're doing all the heavy lifting of building out that infrastructure and the training and the number of people to, you know, deliver all these different varieties of products at scale, you know, which is much more complicated than perhaps a fast food chain, which doesn't have those standards, shall we say. You know, you keep mentioning fun, both of you. You know, it's really hard running a business, especially one at this scale with all the moving parts and the quality, you know, expectations you put on yourselves. Tell us a bit about your kind of leadership mindset, or what's the attitude you have in mind in building out a purposeful company like this? Because it really does show up. And I don't know whether it's just intuitive to you, you know, that's just who you are in the world, or you've gone, you know what, we're going to have fun doing this no matter what.
You want to take that, Rachel?
Well, I just think that it has to do with care, the word care and empathy for all of our employees and our customers. And everything we do, there is a sense of we want the employees to be happy. For instance, in the drive-through, we really train the people that work there to be kind and cheerful. And that's what I hear from all the customers that come through. They say, oh, your people are so wonderful and they really take care of us. And so I think that the idea of, and Andy, you basically started that, like, you know, there's like a no anger rule, and
no anger rule. I like that. No anger rule.
Stop it. Not no anger, no yelling is what we mean.
There was no yelling allowed, and we've learned a lot in the years. And so basically, when we started the business, all we thought about was how to make food. We're going to make this food. We didn't know anything about it, but we're going to make this food. And then suddenly we had a company. We had people making the food. We had, you know, HR. We had training people. We had all these things. And suddenly we had this wonderful company. And we really cared about them. And they felt it. And everyone felt that we cared about them. And Andy, do you want to add something now?
Yeah, Rich, add the part about, you know, the intention behind the food, the photographs, the flowers, all that.
Oh, okay. So I have a very unusual philosophy about the business, which I started right from the beginning. It's kind of a subliminal message, is that, so somebody is going to the store and they're buying this box of frozen meal, which is really not the most natural way to eat. The natural way to eat is to go to the farmer's market, get your fresh vegetables, come home and make salads and soups. But this time in this world, we're too busy, or we don't know how to cook. It's just, but what we try to do is give them a connection to their food. And in the way, like from the beginning, the photograph on the package, I always put like a plate from my grandmother, and we have flowers in the garden, and I put a flower on the package. And we feel that at every step of the way, all the love that people put into the food, the farmers, the processors, the the people working in the office, the people making the food, the shipping, everything, we just try to make it a very loving experience and caring experience. And so that when people eat the food, they feel something, they don't know what it is. And what the greatest thing is that whenever I meet people, or the people who work for us meet someone and say they work for Amy's, or they say, I like to tell people that I'm from Amy's when I meet them, because they're so excited, and they say something, and they all say it, and they say it in the same tone of voice. It says, "Oh, you're from Amy's? Oh, I love Amy's." I mean, it's just universal. It's the response that we get. And that's the joy that we get. For me, the joy of making people happy and feeding people is what keeps me going in this business, and not selling to, make zillions of dollars. You don't want to just sell out if you don't have to.
No, what you're saying is really powerful. If you are a purposeful person that starts a purposeful company, when you sell, you can often sell out yourself. And you don't want to do that, because the price is far higher than any amount of money that you will make. And so for us entrepreneurs that are listening, for business leaders running large corporations, when you hear words like love and care and fun, we all get it. We all wish that business was like that. But the reality of entrepreneurship and competition and marketing is not like that. So how do you scale it? Do you actually do it by who you hire and bring on board, and you filter those very carefully? Is it through the training that you do, where you're not just training them in how to make the food, but how to show up for other people? Is it all of those things? How do you keep that secret sauce alive?
I think it's all those things, and we've made mistakes. We've gone off course, but we quickly recognize it and try to fix it. But it's been important to me and to Rachel too from the beginning that people are happy at work too, besides the mission and the service, which is a big part of it. You spend most of your life at work. We want people to be happy. We couldn't own a company where people aren't happy. So that's a big part of our mission.
And you're a B Corp as well, Rachel. Help people understand what that is and why it's important to you both.
Andy, why don't you answer that? But one thing I could say about it is that we've always lived this way. We've always done things caring about the earth, caring about with organic and with vegetarian. So it's just a natural outcome of, as far as the making of the food and the growing of the ingredients, but there's so much more. And Andy, could you explain the rest?
Sure. Well, one thing I would say that when we started, we didn't realize, and I don't think industry as a whole realized, the negative impact that business and manufacturing was having on the planet.
Right.
We knew we didn't want to put pesticides in the soil, but we didn't understand the grand scale of global warming and all that 33 years ago. But as the years went on, we became more aware of it and have tried to do better and better. When B Corp was first presented to me, I was resistant. I said, we were around 20 years before B Corp doing all the same things. Why am I going to pay someone else to tell me what I already know we are? And it was explained that, well, for one, we are setting an example for other companies by telling people this is what you're doing. And two, even though we scored 100 and some % on the first test, which is usually people score around 60 because of the impact of what we've already done, there's a lot more to go. There's a lot more we can improve on. And so that was the motivation to do it. And also, one of the things we did was have medical centers at each plant. So people get their primary care right at work. We take them off the line, we have someone else go on the line, and they get their physical. So this was, when we did that, Whole Foods followed us, the Container Store followed us. So when you set an example of something, it helps other people follow. So the B Corp gives us an opportunity to be a better example, to help other people follow and make a bigger impact. Many years ago, 2009, Sundance Channel did a program called Big Ideas for a Small Planet. It was kind of ahead of their time. And Amy was being interviewed, and she talked about how, and this part never got on TV, but how she dreamed that Amy's would become a big enough company to be a force towards healing the planet, not doing damage, but actually healing the planet. That we would have scale and influence to really help change things. And when I heard that, that was very inspiring and motivational to me. And the company Amy is really the guide on sustainability and justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion. And she's taking the company much further in that direction than we ever could have or would have.
It's so powerful what you're saying. That ambition, when articulated that you want to become a force big enough to heal the planet, can really motivate the company, inform all its decision-making, help you kind of stay true to your priorities in the first place. And I think, it's a really, really powerful lesson for all of us. So thank you for sharing that. And I'd love both of you to speak to, as you look back over 3.5 decades of leadership in a high integrity, but also highly competitive category, what is one piece of advice you give the next generation of leaders, whether they're leading a corporation or enterprise, or whether they're starting their own social enterprise or purposeful company? As you reflect back, what is one piece of advice you might give the leaders of tomorrow who want better for you, better for planet products out there?
One thing would be stay private. I know so many people are motivated to start their businesses, get it big and sell. That's such a big motivation. And we've always, tried to stay private. We've worked through banks, so we get a line of credit, and it's a very clean. There's no pressure. I mean, there is pressure. If we start making mistakes, the bank says, hey, you gotta do better now, but it isn't like we're going to sell or anything like that. So, and I also think that if you do something that you love and you really believe in, and you look out there and you see that it doesn't exist, that if you can find a niche, like every time we came out with a new product line, we did it because there wasn't anything else out there. If there was something good, we didn't go try to do it. This is just for us within the food business. So those are the two things: is find something you love, you're passionate about, and stay with it. Don't give up.
Yeah, I would say those would be the main things I would talk about too. But I mean, not necessarily that you have to stay private. In our case, we have to because of the complexity of our business. I mean, you can't imagine how complex our business is, with thousands of organic ingredients all coming to a place at the right time and being prepared. It's a mind-boggling exercise. But if someone has a product that's like an Impossible Burger, something you can kind of just make in a simple way, and then maybe being public or taking venture capital doesn't hurt the enterprise. So I think it depends on the case. In our case, it definitely would have hurt what we were doing. But I think that word persistence is the big thing. Do what you love and be persistent. Don't quit. Just stick with it. It looks really dark sometimes, but stick with it and wait for that door to open.
Rachel?
I have one other thought about that with the persistence. Is there's so many wonderful people in the industry that you're working in, and they're all willing to help. Is just reach out. Andy was always reaching out to people when he didn't know how to make something or do something. And people were always very helpful. So
really, yeah, I'm kind of surprised. It's kind of like I saw something. I think it was on the Oscars last night. Something about how kind people can be, the good side of people. When that lady won the award for Nomadland, she was talking about that everybody has good in them, and I was thinking about that. That was really what brought our success. Was that when I'd ask for help, people would give it, whether it was in equipment, finance, whatever it was. Don't be hesitant to ask for help, and that's all.
That's a really important piece of advice for everyone, because when your come from as a business is to serve everyone's interest genuinely, authentically, then the flip side of that is they will come to your aid and support you when you need it, whatever that looks like. And people don't realize that that's the power of your intention in the first place. If you really want to look after them, they'll look after you as well. So I so appreciate you bringing that up. And Rachel and Andy, Thank you for your time today, and congratulations on your continued success. And thank you for being such a powerful example of leading with we.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of Lead with We. And you can find out more information about our guests, Rachel and Andy from Amy's Kitchen, in the description below. And if you enjoyed this episode, give it a thumbs up and make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel by clicking the red button below. And I'm excited to share that my new book, Lead with We, is now available for pre-order on Amazon. So check it out. Lead with We is produced by Goal 17 Media, and you can also listen to each episode on Apple, Google, or Spotify. See you next week, and until then, let's all lead with we.